Good people, good people, good people. Welcome to another edition of Commanders Wrap, where you get all your relevant Commanders news in 15 minutes. I'm your host, Dr. Wonderful, Doctor of Writing, Professor of English, and avid Commanders fan. And I'm joined here by my co-host, Kevin Bayne. And we air Sunday at 9 a.m. on YouTube, and then we replay at 10 a.m. on Spotify, Amazon, and Audible. Kevin, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I can't complain. I mean, football season is almost here.
Absolutely.
It's the best time if you're a Commanders fan. We're getting all pumped up because soon is getting here. Training camp is upon us. Rookie minicamp has just passed us. So we're getting here really quick, and we're happy to get everybody caught up. So one of the things we want to get people caught up on, Kevin, is some news from Commanders Land. And last Monday, in a press conference from the White House, no less, President Donald Trump, Mayor Muriel Bowser, and Commanders majority owner Josh Harris announced that the 2027 NFL Draft would be held in Washington, D.C. on the National Mall. That's big news, big, huge news. Also, we wrapped up rookie minicamp, and there were some interesting observations from rookie minicamp. And Kevin, you're going to give us your thoughts on both. What's your thoughts? Number one, the draft is coming to DC, baby. So, what are your thoughts on that? And then go ahead and tell us what your impressions were of rookie minicamp.
Yeah, so I think it's absolutely amazing with the new regime, and in less than 2 years, we have an NFC Championship game, an agreement to bring Washington back home to RFK, and now the NFL Draft. I heard Goodell say he expects more than 1 million in fan attendance, and that number would set a new record, which is currently held by Detroit as the highest attended draft event since the league started traveling it around the country. I don't know about 1 million plus, but I know there's going to be a huge turnout. I think what he means by 1 million is, it's a 3-day event, so maybe 400,000 one day, 3 the next, and so on. But I agree with what Josh Harris said, and yeah, it's definitely going to be millions of viewers around the world. It's great for DC. It's going to generate some jobs, tax revenue. It has meaningful economic impact across the city. And what a great backdrop scenery it'll be having it at the National Mall, specifically near the Washington Monument. It's amazing what can happen to your franchise in a city in 1 year with a competent owner, GM, and franchise quarterback. And I'm like, do you think there would be a chance that the draft would still happen here if Snyder owned the team? Of course not. But yeah, I'm just pumped, and I know the type of person to where I don't know what I'm doing next week, let alone 2 years from now. I'm not a big crowd type person, but I can promise you I'm going to try to be there for this. It's a historic event, and so yeah, I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a fun time. I mean, I think there is the caveat. Certainly, people who live close to the National Mall, I'm quite sure they're going to have their fair share of irritation. With the tourism, with the extra, all of that, those things happen. And so I do believe that there will be some sentiment and a little bit of frustration over just people overcrowding your area at a certain time. Those sentiments are true. So I do hope that, during that time that the city does also do something to ensure that people's privacy does remain private while there's a big 3-day party going on in DC. Certainly. That's what I would
Yeah.
hope for some of the residents. I was from uptown DC, so I grew up around Howard University and Georgia Avenue. So I'm someone who's like, oh yeah, National Mall, new stadium, great. I live nowhere near those places, so
Right.
so of course. But for
Yeah.
people who live like right there, certainly I do hope, like I said, that the city we'll do something to keep them protected, to keep them safe, right, and to keep some of the irritation
Yeah.
away. But they have a year to plan for that, for sure. But it's
Yeah.
a great time for the city. Great time to be a Commanders fan. Feels like old times. So
Absolutely.
now talk to me, Kevin, rookie minicamp. What are some of your observations? I tend to think any observations for rookie minicamp are grossly exaggerated. But it's still good to hear what people are thinking as they look at reports and read the stories and see the camps. So what are you thinking?
So yeah, I was hearing some great things about several of the rookies. I'll start out with Jalen Lane. I've said it before. It seems like he could be a real steal. Apparently in camp he showed his speed, elusiveness, yards after the catch, and apparently he had a great camp. So yeah, if he's what they're thinking he could be, to get him at pick 128, that's just incredible. Uh, Gabe Taylor, that was another name I heard a lot about, and obviously he's a big fan favorite, the brother to the late legendary Sean Taylor. And yeah, I heard he was lined up at safety. He looked explosive, played fast, made a positive impression with the coaching staff, which is huge. Uh, I think a lot of fans, and including myself, are really rooting for him. It moves me on to the running back, Krosky Merritt. The fact he was a seventh round pick, I think there was an enormous amount of intrigue of what he can do. And apparently he was as advertised. They were saying he was decisive, boasts outstanding footwork in camp. Um, he has the initial explosiveness seldom seen with the seventh round picks. Obviously, he's got a long ways to go, starting from the bottom in a crowded running back room with B. Rob, Eckler, McNichols, and Rodriguez. But it's reported that Commanders coaches believe they found something in him, and this is also echoed by several respected analysts around the media. I personally think tempering expectations might be wise, knowing he was a seventh round, 245th pick, who again is starting from the bottom, and it's possible he may need a little extra time to develop. But the situation we're currently in, that's completely fine. The opportunity is there to stake a claim, and that's what's most important. And last but not least, I'll mention Kane Madrano. Um, I was a little skeptical when we first drafted him, uh, just purely based off of what other scouts and analysts had said about him. I really didn't watch him hardly at all in college. I did a little digging and I learned some things, and one which he actually went to UCLA to be a wide receiver, and it wasn't working the way they thought. So head coach there, Chip Kelly, actually suggested he try linebacker. He excelled at playing linebacker. He was a 2-year starter for them in the position, along with being a captain. I then find out that the UCLA linebackers coach was at the time, lo and behold, it was Ken Norton Jr., who's of course our linebackers coach. So they knew a lot about him prior to the draft, and one reason they probably really liked him. Uh, I know we reported he had the fastest 40 time of all linebackers at the combine. And more specifically, he's in camp. They said they was playing in the nickel package, and he was doing really well. So with Wagner, who we all love, we know he isn't getting any younger. Majana being a later round pick, I was just glad to hear some good things about him. I won't be shocked at all if he's putting in some package this season, whether it's playing in a nickel to give someone a breather or even on special teams. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, same here. I will say about all of those picks, specifically after Josh Connolly and Trey Amos, they all have the right kind of attitude about what it is that they would need to do to get on the roster. I mean, the fact that Jalen Lane is very excited and willing to return punts is important. The
Yeah,
fact that Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt has experience returning kickoffs is important. You know, those types of things are important. The fact that Kay Madrano is very, very fast, right? And
yeah,
excels. These are things that are very, very important and can lend yourself to them being important contributors to special teams while they're getting themselves together. So, because we also have Dominique Hampton ahead of Kay Madrano as well as Jordan McGee.
yeah,
So, what is it that's going to happen with them as well, right? With another year in the system. But I agree with you. Every draft pick seems to have a purpose, and I
yeah.
think that's what I like. There's no this guy's just some developmental piece that we have no plan for. No, every draft pick they have a concerted plan for it, and when they want to enact it. And I think that speaks very highly of not only AP, but also the coaching staff for sure. So, Kevin, we're going to get into our next and last segment, and we're going to go over the Commanders' 2025 schedule, and which just dropped this past week. And we're also going to kind of talk about the Dallas Cowboys making a sneaky good trade for wide receiver George Pickens. Kevin, what can you tell me about the schedule? What do you like and what do you hate about it?
So yeah, that was before the schedule came out, I figured based upon last season that we would have a handful of primetime games, and that's exactly what we've got. Um, I saw that we were playing in Spain. I think was against Miami, I believe. I think two we play. And then I'm looking
Yeah.
at Christmas Day against Dallas. I'm like, okay, never played on Christmas Day before. I'll take it. The one thing that little worried me a little bit, I'll say, is a late bye week. And I know there's two sides to this. I know some people like the late bye week. Some people don't. I kind of looked at it and then saw that, after the bye week, those last 6 games are against some really good teams. We come back after the bye. We played Denver, of course, who was a playoff team last year. And then the last 4 games leading up to that are all division opponents. So I think the NFL knew what they were doing when they made this schedule. And, I think they want to see some exciting football, and that's while it's brutal. I think that's exactly what they're going to get is some exciting games at the very end of the year here.
Yeah, and the NFL kind of likes to draw them up that way, right? Like
Yeah.
the best way to get into the playoffs, no matter what, is winning your division. This is why divisional games matter so much in general. So I actually love when the NFL puts division games at the end. I hope they do it for like every, team because they matter that much.
Yep.
For sure. But what about the trade, Kevin? We don't talk a lot about enemy intel here, because this is a commander show. But anytime the Cowboys pull something stupid, we like to talk about them because they're being stupid and foolish. And so, talk to us about the trade that the Dallas Cowboys made for the Pittsburgh Steelers, former Pittsburgh Steelers receiver George Pickens.
Yeah. As much as I hate Dallas more than any other team in the league, Philly's getting close to that, but I actually think it's a good move for Dallas, at least on paper. So Dallas traded a 2026 third round pick and a 2027 fifth round pick. And in return, they got a 2027 sixth round pick in Pickens. So basically, they gave up a third round pick to get him, which you can kind of boil that down to. I don't think anyone questions the talent of Pickens. I think it's more his attitude and persona that can be in question. I feel like Pickens is the type of player to where you really can't stand him if he's not on your team. But if he plays for your team, you're all for it. I'm actually a fan of I'm not going to take any shit from anyone. Having that fired up tenacity, which he definitely has. But you also have to know when you can afford to do that and not hurt your team in important moments. And just as important in watching what you say about your team, after the game is over in the locker room, talking about your quarterback to the media. He reminds me a little bit of Lattimore as far as on the field. He plays with that same passion. I can definitely see them two being matched up, and I'm excited for that. But yeah, I mean, Dallas had a lot of issues going on. They were very quiet in the 2024 offseason, and they lost a handful of key players and were really quiet in free agency. A lot of that had to do with their salary cap issues and the big three that they have, and Dak, CD, and of course, they're very likely to give Parsons a record-breaking contract sooner than later. So they went into this 2025 draft. They were needing a lot of help. And one of the positions they clearly needed help in was wide receiver. Other than CD, they don't really have anything as far as wide receiver. So I fully expected them with 9 draft picks to take a running back and a wide receiver. They did grab a couple running backs, but they didn't draft a single wide receiver. And so then it's like, okay, you look at free agency to see who's available at the position, along with what players are possibly on the trade table. And I didn't see a whole lot. I personally wasn't aware that Pickens was on the table. But I think for Dallas, they're used to having these type of players that can bring some drama, prima donna-ish attitude, so to speak. And yeah, I think it's an area they definitely need help in, and it's an upgrade for them. But I say on paper, it looks like a solid move, but ultimately, I don't know about Schottenheimer and Clay Adams and how their offense will work. I think it's one of those things where either it'll be a good move or a really bad one. Because if Dallas does start to suck and they keep losing, no way would I expect Pickens to keep quiet. I was looking at something the other day, and it was who has the best wide receiver duo in the division, and you rank them 1 through 4. Well, we really don't know the answer because we haven't seen some of the new duos. You've got the Giants with Neighbors and Wandale Robinson. You got the Eagles with AJ and Devonta, and then you got us with Terry and Debo, and then of course you got CD and Pickens. I think most would probably have AJ and Devonta ranked as the best duo for obvious reasons and just winning a Super Bowl. But as a Skins fan, I hope Pickens going to Dallas is a disaster. That's the fan inside me that I want to have happen, but we'll see how it all plays out. But yeah, on paper, I think it's a good move for him.
Right. Well, yes, on paper's the thing. I just have to say this. Yes, Dallas has made these kinds of trades before for players like this. It's, worked out to some degree for them. Dallas can draft and they know how to get players. That's never really been their issue. But I will say this. Pittsburgh has a history of getting rid of mercurial players. And we have to remember that. It went all the way back to Plaxico Burress. Right. There's just a history of them getting rid of players, and most of those players not necessarily exceeding to the degree that they had in Pittsburgh. Now, Plaxico's, yes, a contract dispute, so forth and so on. But that's my thing. I have to see this work.
Yeah.
And Pickens has a real attitude problem for somebody who's never even gotten over 1,000 yards.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like that's my feeling there. You talk real big stuff for somebody who's never even gotten over 1,000 yards, and there's 17 games. You couldn't average less than 100 yards per game.
Right. Right.
Like, let's think about that. So that's going to be very interesting to watch and develop. But I agree with you. Like I said, I felt like with the draft, free agency, everything, that the NFC East did well on all fronts. I think all teams got better.
Yeah.
So it's just about how much. But I do believe all teams got better, and I won't sell the Giants or even Dallas short on the fact that they did do things to get better. How much better is for the 2025 season to decide. So, and on that note, we're going to get ready and get on up out of here. But in 2 weeks, we're going to be back here. Kevin and I are going to be on a 2-week rotation until training camp starts. So we'll be back to get you caught up on phase 3 of minicamp, which was the veterans going there, any kind of storylines coming out. Where might they have Josh Connerly actually lined up when those things begin? On our edition, what will be our first June or end of May edition of Commanders Wrap, where you get all your relevant Commanders news in 15 minutes.